Yeah, let me go around the room and unmute everybody. There we go. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome. Hi, listeners. Welcome to another episode of SHL Tonight. I'm your host, Ace. Alongside me, my wonderful co-host, Hiffo. Hiff, how are you doing tonight?
It's been an exciting day in the SHL after a bit of a quieter week. Some exciting stuff in the standings, though.
Yeah, that's what we're here to talk about.
Dramatic changes in that regard. Just a great week for hockey in general, I think.
Yeah, just all around. Just great. Love it. So we got some fun guests here today. We've got SDCore. Corey's back. He's going to talk a little bit about FHM 10 and what that means for the rest of the community, which is pretty exciting. Some of the advantages that our GMs get and maybe some other quality of life stuff. You'll have to, just watch a little bit longer to find out. Additionally, we have Jess. Honestly, I've known you forever and I still don't know how to pronounce that username.
Sheldon.
I still don't know how to pronounce that username.
This is the first segment of Ace pronounces a European word.
Yeah,
yes,
it is.
Yes, we do have some news.
Roy's in the chat. He can critique my pronunciation of that, but the important part is the soft sound.
Okay, I'll try to remember that. So before we get started on that, we do have a little announcement about the show. I received some feedback from some of our European viewers and members of the community that mentioned, hey, an evening show, U.S. time, it's kind of difficult for us to watch here in Europe. And they're obviously going to watch the VODs and the recorded versions, but it'd be cool if we could do a live show at a time that was palatable for us. And you know what? Me and Hiff being men of the people here, we just want to serve what everyone wants. And what we've done is we've, moved heaven and earth to make our schedule work for you. And we are proud to announce that once a month, we will offer SHL this afternoon. So during the weekend, we will have either a Saturday or Sunday. We'll try to give you as much notice. We will have one episode a month be an afternoon show on the weekends, and we'll be able to get that on a Euro-friendly time. So
by the people, for the people, 100%.
That's it. That's it.
Really
That's who we are.
Himself on the back a lot in those last
It's the Obama
seconds.
meme with the medal, and
yeah.
I almost threw my shoulder out, patting myself on the back there.
We could tell.
Anyways, we're super excited to be back. Like I said, welcome to another episode. This is episode 4 or 3. I don't know. I can't count. I'm from New England. I got the Boston style education through high school system. So, but we're happy to be back here. We're going to be going over first and foremost the State of the Union. We don't have any questions yet in the thread that we're going to go over, so don't hesitate to throw your questions or comments into the chat. We'd be happy to go over anything specific, in addition to the kind of topics that we're going to go over here from the State of the Union. So, first things first, wanted to just kind of see, Jess, basically from your perspective and maybe the rest of the head office, what do you think kind of the response has been to some of the announcements that were put out from the State of the Union? It was a pretty big one compared to recent seasons.
Yeah, there was, and especially considering we just had another one recently. I think this is one of the shortest spans between State of the Unions that we've had in recent memory. But there were a couple of things in here that we thought maybe these would be standalone announcements, and we decided no. There's the two big things were the engine upgrade and expansion, and for a minute we contemplated, okay, we'll just do those two, and it'll be a little announcement, and then we kept thinking of more things to add in.
The pile of things that we were doing
like I
and
had
are
started.
doing is just.
So is this confirming that Frenchie was an afterthought?
No. Well, I can tell you though that the placeholder text in there, because there was, we work on it as a group. So I write some of it, Frenchie writes some of it, and this one we knew had to come from Finn, but we all kind of helped work on it. And my placeholder text at the beginning was, Finn, say something nice about Frenchie here. And that was just all it said for most of the time we were working on it.
It was incredible when that posted the draft, and that was still there, and we're all like, just post it like that.
Just post it like that.
Leave it. It's
Stage
funny.
directions. This is what Finn would say.
Yeah. But
insert Finn comment here. Just leave it.
Exactly. Insert Frenchie commissioner announcement here.
So I just want to ask, is there any truth to the rumor that the entire topic of expansion was finally brought up because I ambushed Corey about it?
No.
Right here on the show. Okay.
No.
You heard it here, folks.
The thing is, one of the reactions, it's always a little frustrating when you put something out like this, is the people who are like, yeah, but have you thought about this, that, the other, as if we would, put out a half-assed, half-thought-out announcement of something this big without considering all of these different angles. And I mean, they're not valid questions, but yeah, we've thought about it. And it's especially with expansion, that was something that we were tracking for a long time, like as long as people have been asking about it, at least, and probably longer. You always keep an eye on the numbers. And yeah, Frenchie was really instrumental in keeping up with those numbers and pulling numbers and getting, communicating with Luke to pull certain, like the rates of people falling off and how many people were retiring and how many people were recreating and how many people were, how many of those retirements people choosing to retire versus the inactive players that get auto culled at the end of each season. So there was a lot of data gathering on that and keeping up with it. Major shout out to Frenchie for helping track all of that and keeping us, because you can always get that. You're like, okay, well, these classes feel like they're getting bigger and we're hitting record activity checks. And so the vibe feels right, but you want to have the data.
And I think the fact that there was a consideration of 2 and potentially 4 teams shows that it's something that was waited on and is necessary at this point versus something that'd be fun to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Cammy 1931 asked the question, what will be the deciding factors that you'll be considering when choosing between expanding 2 teams versus 4 teams?
Several things. I think first of all, it's a balance for us. It's you want, if you think you're going to get there and you think you're going to get there within 2 or 3 seasons, do you really want to just do 2 now and then make everybody go through it again in 2 seasons, or do you just want to rip the Band-Aid off and just do it all at once? There's also, do we get enough quality pitches for expansion teams? Because even if we want 4 teams, we're not going to just jam, garbage branding and people that we don't feel are ready for it into GM jobs just to get it done. So it's, it's very much a keeping an eye on things and seeing how the application process goes. But yeah, the reason we wanted to mention the 4 was so that, we get all of these applications and we can tell people, okay, if we decide to go with 2, these two are the two that we picked this time, but you are on the short list for next time when we already have that ready and we don't have to go through the process again if we decide to do it in 2 seasons.
I also think it's a great opportunity. I mean, it kind of releases maybe some of those inhibitions that maybe some of those newer users would have and say, okay, there's only 2 jobs. There's a lot of veterans here that have a lot of experience. I'm not even going to bother to apply because that just seems so daunting. If there's that, potential of 4 teams, they're going to be like, all right, well, maybe I'll take a shot. Maybe I have a chance. And I love that because I want as many people applying for this that are putting their head out there and are interested in it to be able to do so.
I think that's a lot of that too. And it's also like we have to think about the J. While the SHL is, the main league in some respect, we don't want to decimate, our partner, like our other big aspect of this. So we need to kind of balance if 4 would be we don't want to do a 4-team expansion and then have to run IA players on a couple teams
or bots again,
or whatever. So it's a big consideration too.
You got to look at it holistically. You can't just look at one or the other without the big picture.
So, I mean, what is your timeline? What are you basically waiting until the conclusion of applications when you guys make that decision on if you're going to 2v4? Are you going to bake in a little bit more time to try to get more metrics or projections based on, numbers or what's kind of, do you guys have a timeline on that decision?
It's a great question. I do not have an answer.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's something that we got to settle with everyone in HO because, deciding that you're going to do it is like a fifth of the battle, and then you have to deal with the rules and the protections and what that looks like if you're going to 2 teams versus 4, and even stuff like looking at helping work with the J, if there's something that they need to do to adjust to whatever we're doing. So there's a lot of pieces that move together with it. So without knowing exactly what work needs to be done, it's hard to say specifically.
Well, I can say that I've seen firsthand already, just in the last handful of seasons, that there's so much more synergy now in the management between the SHL and the J. It used to be very siloed and they would be operating very independently. There's just so much more collaboration now, and I'm really optimistic, and I feel really good about where the direction of the community is going on that front.
Totally agree. There was always that us versus them, which league's better nonsense, and I think that the more we've gotten JGMs in SHLHO and vice versa, I think it's been really satisfying to see the cooperation there and how it's made it a healthier viewpoint from both sides, as far as the vital role that both leagues play in the side as a whole.
Is there still that same sort of answer to the question regarding when we're going to learn more rules for the expansion draft? Are we still waiting and seeing? That's going to be entirely dependent upon, obviously, the number of teams that we're going to be adding.
It will be. I can probably, I think that we might, I can't promise, but what I would like to try to do is come up with what would happen in each case and share that with people so they can start preparing in either case. But that is really just a matter of when we can get the work done.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
keep getting sidetracked by
there's been so many things that the good thing about having an active head office and people who all get along and generally are looking for the league to improve is that we all start working on our own mini projects that all and somehow start to come together all within the same months of each other. And you're like this last month and a half, 2 months has been I think everyone has been banging their head against the wall, and then you don't have time, then you don't even think about the things that come up on a day-to-day basis. So you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go this way for
just put your head down, go into your project, kind of dive into that.
Yeah.
Is there any other fun things that have been worked on that you could talk about besides FHM or expansion?
I think Corey's been all FHM lately.
I can't tell you what anybody else has been doing in HO. I don't think I've even contributed a little bit to the expansion conversation, except for some baseline. This is what we used to do. This is the rules we've had in place when I did it, and that kind of information. But I couldn't tell you half the conversation. I'm just sitting in FHM10 for hours on end. So yeah.
Well, I gotta
Other
ask.
fun stuff. Are we doing anything else fun? I feel like we are.
HFFO and I are working on something fun. No spoilers.
We are
Yeah,
cooking
that's
something.
true. Oh yeah, we're gonna
Ooh.
be updating some of the GM guides and the Simmer
Nice.
guides
Yeah.
and some of that stuff. And we're gonna try to work at clipping up the rule book a little bit too. But like I said, just like again, those are all of our little side projects that we just keep getting these
These things. We have things, yes. So, I
Yeah.
mean, back to expansion real quick for a second here. I'm genuinely curious. Like, obviously, no specifics, but is the head office pretty pleased with the initial response that they've received from applicants? Good number of
I
volume.
think we're still early. Because I think like we've gotten a few, and yeah, there's been some quality there. I think that there are definitely some that we are expecting to come in that we haven't seen yet, and that's a lot of people are going to work on it until the last minute to make sure that they're turning in something that they're like completely happy with. So
yeah, makes sense.
some people
You hear
have
that,
not
everybody?
been working on this since June. Ace. No, I'm just kidding.
You hear that, everybody? There's still a good chance if you want to put yours in and get your name considered. So definitely, sharpen that pencil and get
Are
to
there
work on
any
that
cities
application.
that either of you are hoping to see in the expansion for the application? Just not on like an HO level, but just like a personal level. Like
on a personal level. Yeah, there's
cities you
Oh,
want
is
to
it
see.
San Diego? Is that the one you're thinking about?
no,
Corey?
I already got that. We don't have to do it again. No, there are a couple cities that I want to see. I don't know
And
if you want
those
me
would
to
be tell
you
me
want me to
about
tell
it.
you?
Yeah.
I'd love to see a team somewhere in Arizona or New Mexico. I just think that there's a lot of cool potential desert theme brandings that people could do.
It's your
And
sign,
then
baby.
another team in somewhere in like the Seattle to Detroit-ish area.
Isn't that like half the country?
Yeah, but
Seattle to Detroit.
yeah, like Milwaukee or I don't know like where exactly, but I'd like to see another like Midwest team.
I think
Again, I
everybody
just think there's
knows
some really
half
cool
the league
branding.
wants an Ohio team at this point.
I just think there's some really cool potential brandings for those two areas. And I do think the Southwest is a little underserved in the league.
Yeah, agree.
What about you, Jess?
I'm the black sheep HO member who wants European teams.
The Copenhagen Pagans returning?
Bring him back. Bring him back. Love it. All right. Go ahead, Corey.
I love European team, but like, I think it just opens a can of worms. And I don't really know what those can of worms is.
A word I use, it's a very fancy word. It's called verisimilitude.
Yeah, you hit me with that, and I was like, "What the hell did you just say to me?"
It's the illusion of reality contained within like a simulation environment or like a book. So you can have extravagant things happening, but you want it to be maintained within the realm of reality. So if you're having like a really long travel to Europe just for one or two teams, it's not really realistic.
I mean, the thing that I keep telling people is that can of worms has already been opened because
New York
people
to
travel
London,
from
Newfoundland.
Oh, New York to London is like half as long as Anchorage to Newfoundland.
So there's
I did a deep dive on that. That was one of my first deep dives with my last player was the commute distances.
So we need to relocate Newfoundland to maintain
that's the conclusion I get.
Or we could, pull Anchorage back into like a not in the middle of nowhere.
I think it was like a couple seasons ago. There was a Anchorage Newfoundland back-to-back game that were in each city, and they were played the next day. And I was like, that would really suck if you were playing.
I'm not sure it's physically possible.
It's that high-speed train that we're working on here in Canada. We're real excited about it.
That's my other thing is like, do you know what year the file is on right now? Like, we probably have supersonic planes on the regular.
That's a good point.
Still no teleporting yet. We're working on that.
All right. Any closing questions for them, Hif, on expansion before we move on? And we kind of put this one to bed and let Jess.
No, I think we've kind of pumped them for as much information as they can give us without divulging anything too soon.
All right, cool. The chirper thread. guidelines. So, can you explain to me maybe how prevalent was this low effort issue around our community just to go out and get cash? Because I can't honestly, I haven't touched Chirper since it came out, so I don't spend a lot of time in there. Has this really been as big of an issue as it
Yeah.
was
Like
presented?
I mean, regularly people just chirping chirp or chirp for money or chirp 1, chirp 2, chirp 3. That kind of thing. Like, and I'm not like, we're not trying to be hard asses here. Like, we're not trying to make it unfun, but it's community engagement for money. It's not money for nothing. And if it was going to be money for nothing, we would just deposit $1 million into everybody's bank account who did the AC and be done with it. Like, you're supposed to be engaging with the community.
So this
Even
won't
if
affect
it's stupid.
this won't affect the people doing the movie script, right?
I mean, I can't be out there looking at everyone and deciding if it's a movie.
Because I really did enjoy seeing
We
The
can
Incredibles
see,
just come every week.
like, we can very easily see 1-word, 2-word chirps.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have the time to go through and read every single one. That's not to say that we won't notice if you type chirp, 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 chirp. But like,
But what if they say chirp in Swedish?
It'd be the
then
same word over
I
and over
will
still,
understand it. And
But have you? So I know there are some people who like honestly like their work day when they're bored is just reading through Chirper. I'm calling out Rich. I don't know if he's here today.
oh my God.
But is like ever having like someone to audit that who just reads them anyway ever been a
I
consideration?
tried to pay the Discord moderators to do it, and James was like, "No, thank you."
Why? He stalks the site anyway. He probably knows what they all are.
I was like, "You probably have already read all of them anyway."
Rich does confirm I read Chirper. There it is. Straight from the horse's mouth.
And he's unemployed recently, so you know it's a win-win.
We're celebrating people's unemployment. Here we are in SHL tonight celebrating unemployment. Woo!
I think he means SHL unemployment.
Oh, okay.
Not really.
I thought you were saying he
Heard you lost your job.
If he also did that, that's not the intention. I would apologize, Rich. Unless it was a toxic environment, then good for you getting out.
Oh goodness gracious. Let's jump over and talk a little
Verified
FHM 10.
chirper. Comment.
Was there a verified chirper? Where is that?
What if we turn
if we turn
Chirper into a
Chirper?
subscription service and charge SHL money to be verified?
I think you're onto something. We could have our own AI engine. We can call it Grok.
Oh my God. We already
Ron,
have
actually.
him. We have Grok at home.
We have Grok at home. This is my Grok. You stole the name. FHM 10.
Yes.
So, Corey, you're now on the stage here. So, I can only imagine that a lot of effort goes into, well, at least some effort goes into, you know, the evaluation and consideration of the sim engine every time Franchise Hockey Manager comes out with a new version. You know, I want to kind of, before we talk about maybe the successes of FHM 10 and why it merited that upgrade, you know, what about like FHM 9 that came out didn't quite, you know, warrant that change for us to consider jumping ship to that game instead of this one?
I think so. It's not so much that FHM 9 wouldn't warrant it, and it's not so much that we didn't look at it. It was more the timing of where we are now, and the features that 10 gives us. Teddy is really Drunken Teddy is really like my person or the league's person. I'm not gonna say mine. It's just the person I've been bugging the most lately. Is really the person the league relies on the most when it comes to the new versions of the games and what features he's like sees, because he goes through development stuff. Like he does a lot with it and he plays the game. So it was really just kind of a timing thing and a features thing that kind of worked correctly, I guess is the best way to put it. It wasn't so much that 9 didn't warrant it. It's just not, it wasn't, we wouldn't move to 9 now when 10 improves the things that 9 had.
And we wouldn't have moved to 9 like when 10 came out because it was too soon after we'd switched to 8. Like you do still have to be cognizant of, yes, people do have to buy this new game. So we're not going to switch, upgrade one version. And
we also look at, so the way FHM works is that they go through about when they release their new game, they go about 6 to 8 months worth of update logs and bug development and why the game's out. So like switching to something like 11 while they're actively doing that could cause our league serious issues that we're not even aware of. So they stopped development updates, I think, in like September for 10. I could be wrong. It could have been like May. I don't know. Whatever it is. I just looked at it today and I can't remember if it was a 5 or a 9. So that's another big consideration for the league because we did it in PvE. We upgraded into one of the new versions and it caused some issues with sims because either the simmers didn't update it and then they couldn't import things and there's a bug that wasn't caught and
like Schwartz says, like somebody might have a patch and somebody else might not.
Yeah. So yeah, we were that's kind of why we started looking heavily at 10.
Stability,
then,
cost.
Yeah. And some of the features that I've been testing, not testing, but testing for
you can
the
say
league.
testing. We told everyone we would.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Are features that I was looking at in 9 and in 8. And in 8, they don't have it. In 9, they had it, but it was kind of janky. And in 10, they've improved it to a point where I think we can use it stably. That's custom schedules and custom and some different playoff formats. In 8, they have custom schedules, but they're completely broken.
Corey put all this work into trying to do one for the J like a couple seasons ago in 8. And like he spent all this time on it and then it did not work.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I spent
because he went through and manually made a schedule where people didn't have these nightmare stretches of back to back to back to back to backs, and
like
then it just didn't
5
work.
days worth of work, and then it was like this doesn't work. So I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I went and got into 9. I was like, okay, it works here, but it like does something really weird in the playoffs. So then when I got into 10, the first thing I did was import custom schedule. Okay, it works. So there's like little things like that go into consideration when you're looking at it.
Now, you also mentioned that there were some finance and budgeting issues that impacted happiness as well. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So the way FHM works is that they have an annual and a monthly expenses budget. In 8, the budget could be fixed more rapidly, but it could still be fixed, but it's just absolute chaos to do it.
It's impacted by a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no way to manually give people more budget. Like the budget is entirely driven by, fan loyalty and ticket sales and that kind of thing. And you can't control it.
And they change. They'll change, they'll literally change in the middle of a season.
So you can set everybody to the highest morale spending, but as soon as they run out of money, it flips the switch and then everybody on the team is miserable again. Yeah. So that's why we just went to the standard reset morale all the damn time.
So I'm going to pull some stuff up so I have a little bit more information just because.
So while you're doing that, I have another question. Maybe Jess can also answer this question as well. Outside of the schedule, what features should GMs look forward to that maybe are quality of life things that weren't present?
There's one I can think of that I want Corey to talk about because Luke already sniped him in GM chat.
The biggest change, the coolest thing in FHM 10 that is not in 8 is the tactics. So it's like tactics suggestions or advice. So I wish I could pull this up so people could look at it, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to see the file. Anyway, and you don't want to see my chaos. So essentially, when you go into your tactics page as a GM, right, it has like, wide drive, stand lane, funnel, activated D, right? So they have what they basically look at your lineup and your team and their ratings, and it gives you a green, a yellow, and a red for all of those who would be good at those roles. So when you go into stay in your lanes, it'll tell you how good each line, every player is in that tactic.
It's like, this is a tactic recommended for this player, this player, this player, and bad for these player, this player, this player.
So you can look at a snapshot. You can pull up your team's tactics pages and see tactically how good your team is in its current state. So I think it's going to change the meta a lot because what it's going to do is it's going to force teams to either use bad tactics for their teams because they're the meta ones, or
Start building your team
building teams for the tactics you want.
Do we know how accurate, like, so like it would be showing like green for good, like how accurate that be in terms of actual gameplay? Like if you threw like out of meta tactics for your team, is
We're
it super
gonna
effective?
find out.
We will find out. That is one of the things
Fair
I
enough.
have not gotten to yet that I will be testing. I haven't had it. There's a little other bigger things that I need to get in play before we go to that. And like today, I just was messing around with seeing fights per game. You know, like some days I'm just like, I'm gonna do like some really stupid thing and see what happens, which actually some crazy things happen. So that was fun.
I do want to answer this question, that Fishy has here.
So are unit tactics something that is being considered, or are we still planning on global tactics across lineups?
Considered, yes. I can't promise anything for like start of season, but if with as hopefully as much easier as 10 makes it to like see what would be good for each unit instead of the endless FHM6 slog of okay, I need to test every combination of every line with every different tactic to figure out what's going to work here, and that incredibly overwhelming prospect for new GMs. I'm hopeful that will maybe become an option again.
I think this tactics thing is going to be the biggest quality of life improvement for JGMs especially, and for new people in the league, and World Juniors. Like, it's going to make people's lives so much easier because like you can just pick what's best for your team and let it run and see what happens. Or if you're a GM or a coach who wants to, in the SHL or wants to build your team. Like I used to talk to, who was I talking to about this? I want to say it was like Fuzz or someone, a couple, then he was like, I really wanted to try to build a team to do X thing. Like I would like to put my team to do this and make this tactic our thing. And I'm like, this is going to allow you to see if you can make that work and tailor your team to that. Do I know if it's an actual boost or boon or it's going to be a bust for if you do it? Not yet. I can't speak to it, but just the actual like
having team identities,
is kind of like really cool, and I think GMs are going to really appreciate it. It also makes it like, I don't know, gets rid of that like, oh, this team's doing all this one thing and they're doing really, really well, and then you look at it and your team's red and you're like, it really gives you that like, ooh, should we really be trying this like kind of thing? Stop. So I think it might shake up the meta a little bit, unless of course it doesn't actually do. But I'm hopeful it will, because other things in 10 have already reacted in positive ways when I've been looking at them.
So you also mentioned in this announcement that it also includes better data and information on things like shot quality as well. So do we get presented with like, are you able to, do you have any visual examples maybe you could show? Or can you just talk through it?
Yeah, sure.
I know I didn't ask you to prepare that, so that's on me.
No.
You have a PowerPoint ready?
You're supposed
Yeah,
to
do you have the slide deck ready?
I could have done one, but no, sure. So essentially what happens is, so I was talking to actually a few people who are helping me with this because I don't know how to write code or write R or do any of this. So I have a few people helping. And essentially what happens is you get a value system and location. So it'll have a game ID on it. It'll have a time, a score, assist, first assist, second assist, team ID, and then SQ. And I'll have SQ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it basically tells you, it locates the high danger areas and tells you where in those areas those shots were taken. And
it exports data for assists, like first and oh my god, I didn't even know that. See, I'm learning something tonight that delights me because I have wanted so bad for so long to know, like, who was my player most prolific when, like, who assisted them the most, who had the best that chemistry there.
So it has first assist, second assist, and then it has a bunch of shot quality things, including a little bit of location. a little bit of locations, but we're not really sure how that works yet. I haven't had it tested to how it would data look, but it is like stuff that can get put into the index, and also it's possible to also do average shot quality per team and get that data information too per game per team.
Now,
and another really cool thing is so for simming, this goes all into the data thing. When you're actually simming a game, you have that screen in the middle where it has it's like the two teams stat blocks on the side. Now in the middle, they have all these advanced data metrics too. So while you're simming the games, those are updating in real time too, so you can see that.
Do you know which metrics? Like, or is like Corsi or like expected goal for? Or
I can pull it up really quickly in a second.
And while you're doing that, I know that we're planning tentatively in the announcement. It said we're not waiting till 83 like the expansion for this. This is something that we're targeting for season 82. Do we know if the international games this upcoming off season will also be on FHM 10, or is that going to be our last hurrah for
I'd
FHM
assume
8?
not, because when we went from 6 to 8, they were still on 6 that tournament, I believe.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you right now, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't put that on Frith's first season as commissioner. By the way, here, figure this out.
Also, that's when the new simmers go in. So just you figure out FHM 10 new simmers.
Let me see. There's been so much so much talking in this channel, and I don't know if I have a good picture of it. Oh yeah, I do. I can actually look at my actual pictures. But you can keep talking, and
Did the survey go out already?
Not yet. We're still working on it. We've been chasing people down to send us questions about this, that, or the other, and dealing with other things.
So I know that we're on the FHM 10, we're moving over to FHM 10. Is it a lot of background work to switch the index that's showing on the site?
There is work done that's going to be done there, but we didn't we talked to Teddy a lot about it, and he talks to Luke and them a lot about it. I know.
We've had a lot of conversations about it, and they've tested stuff already on it too. They have a few things. Okay, so for the unit tactics, it has great fit, good fit, bad fit, terrible fit for each individual, and inside unit tactics and actual tactics. Just so you know, those are the things it has under each and every single one. And then where is my? I got to find this picture, but I'll find the picture.
Are there quality of life features, like changing it so you don't have to reset happiness on every single sim day? Or is
that's what that spending does. That's the financials that he was talking about.
Great.
That's what causes that, is the financial stuff.
Yeah. So essentially with that, what we're doing is we're going to boost, or we're going to look at boosting all the financials, and then we're going to look at boosting some GM coach things and some other things, just so happiness is less volatile. I mean, there still is some happiness things that happens, but luckily we sim every day, so it's easy for us to check those and correct them before they get out of whack. Like when you're just doing a whole season, things get a little wonky with it, but they never get to as bad as they are now. Okay, so here's what they have. They have by team: possession on offensive zone time, defensive zone time, neutral zone, total possession, giveaways, takeaways, shot blocks, face-off one. I don't know what that one is. Shots all and shots. So shots attempted. And then they have 4 different shot qualities, starting with high danger all the way out for each team.
All right. I just had another
period per total.
I don't know. Follow up on you have the tactics, had the great fit to the terrible fit. Does it also have how your tactics mesh with each other? Because that's another important part of FHM 8 is that not only are your tactics good for your players, but does this tactic work with its tactics?
Does it make sense to flow into the your breakout into your
Does it mention that at all in the fit, or?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I'd have to check. I'm just gonna pull it up and just look.
So we do have another good question from Cami. Cami, great questions tonight. Thank you very much. Appreciate the
Yeah.
engagement.
Jimmy's
It's
keeping the chat
early,
going.
but I wanted to ask, what doesn't FHM 10 fix, and what is on our short list for improvements for future FHMs or even maybe non-FHM sim engines?
I know one that Schwartz always mentions is if it gave us the ability to upload player CSVs, so that if someone didn't have to go in and manually update the file every week, and we could just import all those updates,
I would
like
move
that
tomorrow.
would be instant switch.
Yeah, we would.
Type of
Everyone would.
upgrade.
I would.
Like,
Yeah,
we'll
we'd
work with the patch updates if they.
Oh, we can automate that, right?
my,
Through a creation system, you just
yeah,
export that in a
there is
CSV and
from
then
the portal.
import
It could,
that.
if it
If
could
we
just
had
send
it,
it
yes,
out.
we could.
Mhm, yeah.
So cool.
The one that I always, it's always my pipe dream is the feature that the baseball game has, which is the testing module, where you can just put in, okay, I want to try this lineup, try this, this pitching rotation, whatever, and then you just hit a button to sim 1,000 games versus this team, that kind of thing. So that
testing,
but in a way that is not time consuming and toxic because it is so quick and painless. Oh yeah, and the Frenchie mentions this. The baseball game also has the leagues in one file, and so like the minors league sims at the same time as the majors league.
We could
Good.
do that in FHM. It's just
It wouldn't be pretty.
it's not pretty, and
the size of the file.
The size of the file would be
too.
The amount of issues too. Just like
not
trying
that
to deal with 2 leagues at once.
God, the baseball files are so huge too. Like I used to, because they have like all of the history in there and all of this stuff, and it's like every time I would download one of those things, it'd be like 150 megabytes.
2 hours later.
That wouldn't take that long. It would just take up so much space.
It would be cool to have like chemistry built in the Jays coming up to the SHL.
That would be
to international
awesome.
play. Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, having everything in one would be really cool.
So I'm gonna say that it has the same amount for tactics for team wide as it does now.
Fair enough.
It just has the per line one.
Yeah.
Or
So-
per unit.
I know I asked you this one-on-one, Corey, and selfishly, now that Hiff and I are really driving the boat for the presentation during live sims, we're trying to bring more commentary, more play-by-play as much as we can. One thing that I would really love is a more realistic, nicer looking sim engine, and I don't know how much Teddy's heard or anything, if that's even anything on the radar from the franchise hockey manager group.
Well,
I mean, I would love it if we could replicate that sim engine from SSL, like what they have going on over there.
I think it's just hard because hockey doesn't work.
Like that.
Hockey is so hard to segmentize. Is that a word?
It is now. Yeah,
it works for
100%.
me.
I will
Urban
say,
Dictionary did.
I'll give you a couple things on that. While the sim engine looks similar, it is nicer. It's cleaner. It's not as it's a higher quality. Like when you open and you play the game.
Not as much icing loops.
Yeah, you get like maybe 1 loop a game, if that now. So there are some quality of life things that are there, but no, it looks and functions pretty much the same.
Similar, but just slightly better.
Yeah.
So Slicer asks, how big of a meta change do you think that there will be in FHM 10? Will the player rules shake up? What's strongest? Obviously, that we're going to still need to figure out some of that stuff.
Yep.
But are there
We're
any
not testing
early?
for that.
Yeah,
we're not doing
at
build
all.
testing.
Nope.
We'll never do build testing to try. Like the only way we would be testing attributes is if we were trying to overhaul the update scale, and that is a project for another time.
It was something we talked about doing with all of this, and then we realized how big that project actually is, and we were like, okay, we're not doing
and how we would have to overhaul the cap also.
I'm not changing, as of right now, I'm not changing anyone's attributes or lines or tactics, or I'm just adding contracts and seeing if, and we're doing goals and things and making sure that if we move over, all of a sudden we're not going to have people scoring 400 goals a game or 400 goals a season or something, which so far that's been pretty okay. But yeah, we just don't.
We don't want to. If there's a meta, we don't want to know it yet. We don't want to find it.
Yeah, and the
We
big
want it to
thing with
stay interesting as long as we can.
and the big thing for that too is that we don't want anyone to look at the data that we put in there and make correlations based on things that are really just, I mean, not there, which they're just like, we'll
Like, we're going to put
probably,
the data out there, but we want
Yeah.
everybody to understand that it's in the context of this being an old file.
Yeah.
And
But also, you know, tactics aren't set. It's just like they're kind of running old stuff and randomized stuff, so it's not necessarily indicative of
Exactly.
performance versus other tactics or
Exactly.
coaching
Exactly.
decisions.
And I mean, I hope it shakes up the meta just based on the tactic, the good, great, fine, whatever tactics, and those being available to GMs and GMs. I hope, my hope for the league is that GMs are willing to try things differently, especially some of the GMs when rebuilding teams are willing to go out there and try different tactics and different things that are better for their team so that we can use that tool to its like utmost ability, because I am going to check it a little bit, but like I don't want to go so deep onto that because I don't want it to be I don't want it to be like perceived as something that's, you know, that it's not.
This is what it is. This is the meta.
Yeah.
This is the way to do it, but it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, you're not delving into that.
No, I'm just going to set, when I do that testing, I'm just going to set every team to random good and bad on a scale and see like how much it actually affects. Like take a really good team, you know, or in this file, and use really bad tactics on them and see how much it plunges their team or if it does anything. You know what I mean?
like make
That
the
would-
minimums on every single
Yeah.
thing.
That would be the only way we would handle that testing, because then it's showing a data set that's proving the
value of
This
great
does do
tactics versus
something.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
not trying to figure out what the
Yeah.
meta read of it should be.
Cami asked a question that I think we missed up a little further about fighting sliders that I wanted to briefly
Yeah,
touch
let me
on. That is
grab
something
that.
that I really want to do. I think Corey was testing that just a little bit earlier. We all say sliders, by the way. These aren't actual sliders. Like the goals
No.
per game and fights per game, it's a number value. So we can set that to like, I think, what is it set at now, Corey? In our
0.24.
Okay, so a quarter of a fight on average per game. So a fight every 4 games. But nice. So you know, we're testing bumping that up, seeing if it actually results in more fights, because one thing we did do a few seasons back in 8, we took because scoring has been so drastically inflated, we took the goals per game value down and scoring went up. So you know, we want to make sure that these things are going to actually do something before we say, yeah, we're turning these values up. It's definitely going to do something. Everybody put points in aggression and fighting, and then it does nothing. So we're trying.
Another cool data set feature that is in the game, but I don't think it's exported, is when you look at the stats. So if you go into a season and you look at stats, you know how there's leaders, goalie leaders. Now there's a thing called more leaders where you get fights and some other game ratings, giveaways, takeaways, points per 60 minutes. Rookie points is on there. I don't know if that's an 8 or not. They actually single out rookies.
You can get them in the
leaders.
file, but you can't get it in the index.
Oh, this. I believe this now comes out in the CSV file.
Well, great.
I'm still checking it, but
excellent.
I believe it does. And then there's also this thing called team stats now, where you can actually go and look at defense and other ratings on each team and see which teams are relatively higher and on average in one rating or another in a point number value. So, and then across the league, you can see what the average rating is for each rating as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
So that's kind of cool. Just to see like, oh, you know, you can make some causations and correlations off of it however you want. Like, oh, this team has really high agility and they're one of the better teams. Like there's some fun things to play with.
it'll be really interesting to see how creative some of these teams can get with this new flexibility, and that the fact that we don't have those metas that people are rushing to, and people are going to kind of be sticking their feet in the water and trying to figure out what is going to work. And I'm really looking forward to the first couple of seasons here with the new engine. So I don't have any more questions regarding the State of the Union. I'm not going to put you guys through any more trauma there. Regarding FHM 10, and I think we've been very thorough here as well. Hif, do you have any additional questions, my friend?
Yeah, I was just out of the blue. Is there like a repeating data set that you just find like for a player or a team, something interesting, like someone who doesn't like has the 5 in fighting, who fights 10 times a season every season for no reason, or just like an interesting data point that you've noticed?
Give me 1 second. I want to check to see if this is true before I
We're
say
not on
it.
a show that does fact checking. We just throw things
Yeah,
out there.
just say something. We can't fact check you, honestly.
Said there would be
You're the
no
only one who
fact
can see the
checker.
file. You could say anything. You could
Just send it.
I think the most interesting thing that I have seen, and it's not one person, it's that when you start playing with the fighting slider thingy, the number, you start to see some teams get a lot better and a lot worse. And there's some interesting information that I want to try to pull from that. I guess is the easiest way to say that.
Are goalie fights in FHM 10?
No, not that I've seen.
Unbelievable. Why are we switching?
Very sad.
Our goalie goals at FHM 10.
Again, haven't seen.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad we brought in the expert here to go over these things with everybody today. Just kidding, Corey. Love you, buddy. And I think that's going to wrap up today's episode here, guys. We're a little ahead of
one more
schedule.
thing.
All right, Corey, go ahead.
Playoff changes are huge in FHM 10.
1v8?
So 1v8.
1v8, let's go! All right. I mean, can we do... I think we briefly talked about this before, too, but can we do just 2 conferences, no divisions?
Hasn't been tested yet, but I
Okay.
believe so.
I think that's the way to go, personally. I think I do believe that. Is that going to be limited by the number of expansion teams we add here?
Lime.
What do you mean?
So, like, are we going to be limited based upon the number of teams that we have in the league? What options are available to us? Or can we just really go nuts? Like, whatever we want to do with the custom playoff structures. Like, for example,
Try and stay logical.
Yeah.
We're not going to just be like, guys, this year we've decided to do something crazy.
No, it's not that it's gonna be depending on 2 or 4. It's more what's gonna be easier for competitive balance.
So, like, are you thinking possibly more teams missing the playoffs, or just a certain kind of reseeding structure?
Not more teams but there's going to be more teams.
More teams, so more teams will be
Yes.
missing the playoffs. But I think we're still looking at 16 teams in the playoffs.
Okay. Excellent.
Whether
I don't
that's
think we've
16
even-
out of 22 or 16
I
out of 24.
don't think we
remains
have
the
even
same.
considered adding more teams to the playoffs.
Yeah, but what about the gate revenue that we could bring in with more playoffs?
True. It does lead to further expansion and growing the game, which is very important these days.
Hockey-related revenue has been a point of contention here in our CBA negotiations with the players.
Frenchie
so-
did threaten to cut the pod funding.
I know. That's
earlier,
why I've been so distracted. I am worried about my job here as host of SHL tonight. I got
We need
feed
to
the
make sure
children.
we're solvent, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, our fans, they're real fans to me, Cammy. They're real to me. I too like money. I mean, your name is Rich, right? So
Rich, I checked the index for last season, and I think it says there were 17 fights won last season. So take that as you will. Yeah,
I've lost 2 fights this season
actual-
with 5 and
I
5.
won one. I beat Juke up.
Yeah, that was
This is-
awesome.
That's
That
ball
was so
harassment,
good.
and I do not stand for that. Juke
That was the funniest. That was the funniest moment when he posted that.
When he
I was
pinged
like, oh my-
me
yeah.
in San Diego. Like, what the fuck?
Bytor, your social security benefits are going to kick in any moment now, dude. That's where you're going to get your money.
You get that sweet kid tax credit now. Stop complaining.
Yeah, don't spend that all in one place.
Yeah, I like to think that my player now bullies Juke because my sister beat him in a fight.
That's on brand for you, I'd say. Yeah.
I love it.
All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. thank you, Jess. Thank you, Corey, for coming on to
Yep.
talk about, what's new, what's next here in the SHL. We may have you guys back on again if you're willing when more details come out about expansion and more details about FHM10. And then, maybe when we have another State of the Union. And if you guys are ever interested in joining us to chat about whatever, would love to have you on as another voice. You guys are both, incredibly valued members of our community, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Cool.
Maybe
Thank
we'll
you.
come on here and announce the expansion teams.
That would be so cool.
See, I told Frenchie you should announce expansion
kinda
on
be
the
okay with that.
podcast, but you didn't do that. So the teams would be cool if we could have like a presentation
I
of the
think
branding.
Finn would be very sad if we didn't invite him to.
We could
I think
invite
Finn
Finn.
is
Do they have
more
internet
than
in
welcome
Ohio?
anytime.
Finn, just me and Corey, and
Yeah.
exclude the other commissioner.
No one.
We
no
could
one.
just me and Ace not here. It's just you four commissioners,
Just us.
but we still get paid.
I invite the guy that fired me from a GM job. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, it's all good. We're fine. Anybody that wants to join, they are welcome to join. And also, guys, if you're listening and if you're ever interested in joining us as a guest
Or getting fired.
Corey, I'll bring him on for you. I'll have Corey fire you. It'll be great. But if you guys are ever interested in joining us, drop your mention in the questions thread. We'd love to interview random people about your experience here in the league as well, and that'll help me bullshit away into another subject line to talk about our agenda for an episode. So until next time, guys, I really appreciate your listenership. We had fun here tonight, at least I did. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Bye.